what's his name? Daniel from Karate Kid. Okay, you're a kung fu master and you've mastered rejection, right? You've mastered how to
I'm
reframe
really good at
rejection.
getting rejected.
That's right. You're excellent. You're the best at getting rejected. So,
Hey everyone, welcome to the S.O.B Marketing Podcast, where we celebrate the S.O.B that you are, and if you haven't figured it out yet, we mean small-owned business. We don't mean S.O.B.
listen, we know that as a small business owner, you are working hard on the daily to keep your business fully operational while trying to promote it. And while some days it may feel like the business is owning you, if we're being honest with each other, I bet you would admit that you wouldn't give up the insanity for anything.
Our commitment here at the S.O.B Marketing Podcast is to give you the real talk, what works when it comes to advertising, marketing, promoting your business, and then what doesn't really work.
And Chelsea and I promise to always keep the conversation real.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the S.O.B Marketing Podcast. S.O.B as in small-owned business. We would never call you guys names. Before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping. If you're listening right now and you haven't followed us and you haven't left a review, kind of feels like you're a fake friend. What are we doing? Come on.
No fake friends allowed.
Yeah, no fake friends allowed. We're a community here. We're a bunch of fellow S.O.Bs. So make sure that you're following. Make sure you leave a review. It helps us get in front of other small business owners, and we just want to share marketing tips to help you guys feel comfortable handling your own marketing.
Chelsea, remind us, are we doing a TLDL for this episode?
We are not doing a TLDL for this episode because, heads up, we have a very special interview today. So we don't do TLDLs for interviews because you just need to listen to the whole interview, guys. Vivian, who are we talking with today?
All right. Very special guest today. You guys, I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to be inspired and wowed. And so You're going to want to go be sure to follow our guest on all of the social media platforms that she's on. But today with us, we have Caroline Clark with Revisionist Studio. Now, you guys, before I let Caroline introduce herself, I want to read you what her Instagram bio says because I think it hits the nail on the head. Perfectly describes her. Mud Witch making joyfully detailed functional ceramic sculpture as Revisionist Studio, cultivating beauty and magic in the everyday. Hello, Caroline. Welcome.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me on.
Yes. So, what did we leave out of that? That was a very concise and detailed sentence that sums you up. But we know, yes, people are multi-dimensional. So do you mind telling us a little bit more about you and how you got into this business?
Yeah.
Yeah, I came about it very roundabout. My educational background is in English and Spanish. I have no art education background. I was living in New York City. I actually owned a small business there. I was a professional organizer in New York City. And yeah, I've had like 12 different lives. This is what undiagnosed ADHD does, is you just have a whole bunch of careers.
You're basically saying you're better than a cat, though, right?
I've never tried getting run over, but we'll see. Yeah. But so, and then when my son was about 2, I met my husband in New York City. And when my son was about 2, my mom, I grew up here in South Carolina, and my mom got diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. And so we made the choice to move our family back down here to be with her. So we were living with my parents in the house I grew up in with our young child, building a house in the woods that I grew on the farm I grew up in. I was teaching online from home, and I was like, I gotta do something creative and get out of here. So I went and took a ceramics class. I had kind of taken a class once every 5 years up until that point. And we have an amazing ceramic studio in Camden, which is the next town over from. I do not live in a town. I literally live in the woods. And
I'm a fellow wood girl too. I live out in the boonies as well.
Yes, forest dwelling for life. And just it was exactly what I needed at that time, and fell in hard. And it really, really just it just clicked. And in 2021 is when it became business for me. My first ever market was Soda City Market up here in Columbia, which was just named the best farmers market in the country by USA Today, which is very exciting. I don't actually vend there anymore. I quit vending there a couple of years ago, but that was really fun. That was my first ever market.
So can I ask you something really quick? We're coming off of Mother's Day, and I know you had an article you were featured in the Free Times Columbia, okay? And this was the headline to the article. It said, "Told her art was too pretty to be important. Sculptor carves out own path for Columbia artists." But what was striking to me is, like you mentioned your mom and how you really found this passion and love for art again because you came home to take care of your mother. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so what's interesting to me and what you just said too is this wasn't necessarily something that like you thought you were going to be doing at 10 years old. This wasn't like I strive to be a, ceramicist when I grow up.
No, absolutely not. Art and creating had always been something that I did, but I was like a serial hobbyist. Again, undiagnosed ADHD. I would pick something up, do it for a little while, and then I'd throw it back down. And ceramics was something I had always done, but it was once every 5 years I'd take a class here and there. It was never something that, ceramics is a tough medium because you have to have a studio to go to. It's very equipment heavy. It's very expensive to do on your own. But when we built our house, I was able to set up my own studio. And that gave me the ability to really dive deep into these themes and explore and experiment in ways that I couldn't do if I was, working out of a community studio on somebody else's time frame.
I do want to encourage every single listener right now, please go. Can you share your handles? Where can they find you on Instagram?
Yes, Instagram is the only social media that I currently use because I can only handle one. And
kudos to you.
And that is Revisionist Studio. And my website is revisioniststudio.art.
The reason I want you guys to go look her up right now as you listen to this, I want you to scroll through her Instagram because I think you're not going to truly appreciate the conversation today until you look and see what types of ceramics she's actually sculpting and putting out there and selling at these markets. Because one of the other things I noticed is when they had written this article about you, you said, I grew up on this farm in the middle of the woods and was always surrounded by nature and natural processes, a lot of which seem like magic, especially fungus. Okay, first of all, that's a little strange. People are not going to be inspired by fungus very often. And then you go on to say, you said there's nothing, and then it rains, and all of a sudden you've got all these magical shapes. And what struck me is that right there is small business ownership. If you are listening to this, you have done exactly what Caroline described in that sentence. You literally created something out of nothing. So you're basically a mushroom. Congratulations. And
well, and if you want to run with this metaphor, I'm an English major. Let's go. So
let's do it.
So one of the things that where mushrooms and fungal networks come in my work is that it's these mycelium networks, these connected networks. They run through the forest. They connect all the trees. They send signals. It's these hidden networks of communities. And that's where I have found so much help for my small business is connecting with other small businesses, other makers. Like we support each other. We run ideas by each other. We raise each other up. We share when applications open. And so connecting each other like the fungus has been really important. And really that is, I cannot emphasize enough, like finding people who are going to raise you up and who are going to, when you get those rejections, give you the pep talk, or as I sometimes am the role in my group of the person who's like, they're dumb, let's move on.
I think Chelsea relates to that.
I'm that one in this relationship. But I'm glad you brought up rejection because, Vivian, we do have a topic, y'all.
Yeah.
We do have something that we are talking about today. And we're talking about rejection and criticism and how to handle it as a small business owner. Because, y'all, we get it. Your business is your baby, right? Like your art is your I don't want to say your children, but I'm going with this metaphor now. It's your children. Like you don't want to face criticism. You don't want someone saying, oh, your child's ugly.
I mean, I would take offense. I'm not a mom, but I would take offense to that.
Well, and that's why sometimes criticism hurts so much as a small business owner. So today we are talking about how to handle criticism, how to handle rejection, and I don't want to say specifically, but we're going to focus more on rejection when it comes to markets, just because I do know Caroline, she has so much experience in the market scene. I think this is the perfect opportunity to talk about specifically criticism and getting rejected from markets.
And I've been rejected from a lot of markets.
Yeah. So let's talk about it.
Well, let's start there. Caroline, what is your experience necessarily with using or leveraging markets or craft fairs to sell your products? So that way people know what type of experience you have and maybe give some context to, just how many times you have been rejected and why you know a thing or two about how to deal with it.
Yeah. So markets is my primary way that I sell my work. And like I said, I started out at Soda City in Colombia. And that was in 2021. And so over these past 4 years, I've been spreading out both geographically and in terms of let's call them levels. I've been doing more and more juried art fairs, which are more high end. It's very tough when you're starting out because you just have to apply and try a bunch of markets until you find the ones that work for you. And it's a numbers game. You're going to get rejected from a lot of stuff. And you're going to do a bunch of markets. Like I've done markets where I did not make the feedback. And you're going to have to do that. And you do feel rejected. But, we'll talk about some ways that you can process that in a healthy way and not in a, oh my God, I'm going to go crawl in a hole way. Because that helps nobody. So through these years, I've kind of learned ways to assess markets, like which ones I think will be better for me. I've learned ways to take feedback from markets, take criticism from markets. And I want to make sure that we also, as we talk about rejection, that we make a distinction between objective rejection and perceived rejection, because I think that's really important.
So let me ask you this. Did you kind of feel like you were already, because I'd imagine if you're taking something from a hobby to then saying, oh, maybe I can sell this. Maybe I can make a living doing this. For you, like we said, this wasn't like some dream you had since you were, a little girl. Instead, you found something that you loved and then you were like, oh, possibly this can be a avenue.
Now I've got to sell it because it's like taking up too much room in my house.
She was like, I pumped too much money into this. It's got to
Ceramics
reimburse
is really
me somehow.
expensive as a medium.
Yeah. Well, so, okay. Do you already then feel a little bit like a, imposter syndrome? Because you're like, am I even an artist? Can I call myself an artist? And then who am I to be out there asking someone to pay, what is your typical price range? What's the price range that you sell your products at?
So I love that you brought this up because I hate imposter syndrome so much. I have so many thoughts on that. So my mugs range from the lowest end of my mugs, I believe right now is $65, and that's for the much more simple ones. And my highest mug is $115 right now.
And so I'd imagine there are times when you're like, how am I going to, when you're first starting out and you're like, great, now I'm ready to sell.
They did not cost that much when I first started out.
Okay. Okay.
So absolutely. And I joke that like I feel really bad for the people that bought my first mugs, because I look back at them and I'm like, oh God, no, girl, no. And they weren't that bad. They weren't that bad. But that is something that to balance between, feeling like your work is ready and like delaying too much, and there's no good answer to that. You just do it, and like, sorry if you got a bum mug, guys.
Yeah. I love that you said that, because that's true across the board. You got to just do the thing. Y'all, if you go back and watch the first episode of this podcast, we're all so sorry, okay? Because
I'm still sorry if you're still watching this. I mean, hopefully we'll be better in a year. But no, well, okay. So let's go back though. Touch back on the imposter syndrome. What kind of helped you sit in it for a while? Because I'm sure you just naturally feel like that the first couple of times.
I don't. So I struggle with imposter syndrome because I don't get it. I don't get why people have it or feel like they have it. I know my work is dope.
I love it.
I love that.
It is, I like, and I don't know. I think that too often women are told that we have to be humble. We're not supposed to say, my shit is amazing. And I worked really hard on this. I've spent 4 years every day teaching myself to sculpt, doing things that I've never seen anybody else doing, because I made it up. And like, I don't feel like an imposter because I'm not. And I wonder how many of the women that think they have imposter syndrome are reflecting that societal expectation on us that we are supposed to feel like imposters.
So I want you to right now verbally give people permission.
Yeah.
Tell them, if you're listening to this, tell them.
Your shit's dope.
There you go.
There you go.
You don't have to feel like an imposter. Like, if you make a bunch of stuff and you take it to a market and nothing sells, well, there's your data. Okay. It's like, you're not, I don't get the whole concept. Like, you're an imposter of what? Like,
well, and I think that's where, for me, I'll tell you, I agree with what you're saying. And it's weird because I actually have learned to be okay with failure and to be okay with, because at the end of the day, I think I value the process of things much more than the actual end result, right? So I'm like, oh, well, my husband sometimes will ask me to go outside and throw a football with him. He used to play football. I'm not very good at any of that, but I still go out there. And I was telling him yesterday, it makes me feel good when he says, wow, like you actually throw pretty well, because I've practiced enough now that I'm like, okay, I've picked up little pointers. And I think that's what I value, is I just want to see improvement on my end for anything, right? Whether it's not knowing how to make a ceramic mug, and then suddenly I've created a ceramic mug, and now I get inspired by the nature around me, and now my ceramic mugs are pieces of art.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like the progression. I think a lot of people miss that satisfaction that you get out of that, and instead they're just so focused on like, what will everyone else think about me? Or what will they think about my product? But
it's that fear of rejection. And like, part of what I've done, at least, and is asking myself, if I get rejected from this, what is the worst thing that happens as a result of that? I feel sad. Well, okay, I can handle that. Like, it's go to like the worst possible scenario. What is like doomsday? What is the worst possible thing? I get rejected from this. If you can live with that, do it anyway.
Thank you for saying that. I tell people this all the time, and they literally think I'm crazy. And I'm like, no, I've conditioned myself to where I play out the worst case scenario just in case that happens. I know what I'm going to do. Okay. And then I'm like, great, I somewhat feel prepared if the worst thing happens to me.
If you can live with that as a consequence, go ahead.
let's talk about criticism being data. And since we're talking about right now changing the way you're thinking about things, your mind's framework, I want you guys to stop taking criticism so personally and viewing it as data. Take a look at what's happening during these markets. Are you selling out of products? That's data. Are you not selling any of those products at all? That's also data. Did you not get into the market? Ask the event organizers why you didn't get into the market. I'm serious, y'all. If you're not doing this, then you're never going to get into more markets. You need to find out what is going on the back end and the reasoning why you're not getting into all the events you're applying for. And don't take it personally. It's just data. If they're telling you, I need to see better professional photos from you of your products, then do it. If that is the problem and they tell you to fix the problem and then you fix it, you can get into the market.
The next round.
Next round, yes.
Yeah. And I want to add on to that. Ask for feedback very, very nicely. From
yes, y'all.
Come at it from the thank you so much for looking at my application. I'm really trying to grow. How can I do this? And then if you follow all of what they said and you still don't get in, don't send a nasty email after that. These are things that people actually do, and it blows my mind. It's no, you walk away then. Okay, just that's not the market for you.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you for bringing y'all. Please be nice to event organizers. Please be good, decent people. I like to think all of our listeners are kind, but if you need a reminder, let's not. These are also people, and they're trying their best as well. So
I think the other part of it too is I know and Caroline, you could speak to this. I know it's super competitive, but at the end of the day, when you think about the purpose of any event, so when a group or, people put together these events, their ultimate goal, if they're good at what they do, is to get really great vendors that are going to bring people and draw people out, right? To spend money or to, promote their products or businesses in general. But I think that's, at the end of the day, they also have a purpose. So they're trying to find the best vendors for the thing that aligns with what they're doing. And especially with, I know, Caroline, some of these, I guess, events are probably more geared towards a very specific type or group of people, right?
Yeah. And my work is very tricky to apply to things for because it's ceramic and I'm very cuspy in terms of being accepted as fine art versus craft versus it's also very quirky. So I do have trouble figuring where I fit at certain markets. So that for some people can be very tricky. And, there are some markets that I've applied to multiple years and I just live on that wait list. Oh, I love to live on a wait list. Just park me there, give me a drink. I'm going to sit on that wait list. And you can decide whether you want to keep living on that wait list. It's not an outright rejection, but it is a rejection. And for one, are we naming markets?
Yeah,
you can name markets. Yeah.
All right. So the Big Crafty in Asheville is a very big, very good craft fair, and I just park my butt on their wait list. And I finally have decided I'm done donating to them because there is an application fee for them. Because it's just I have looked at everything. I think my work is a good fit for their market. They do not want me there. And that's okay. Yeah. And I don't need to keep applying. So you do have to decide when to just cut your losses. And sometimes you'll get feedback that isn't so helpful from those things. Like I've gotten feedback before that's like, oh, well, like we really like your work, but we just like, we already have too many ceramic artists. And I'm like, that's not real feedback really, because my ceramic work is not like any of the other ceramic artists. So you chose other ceramic artists over me for a reason. What I need to know is like, what was the reason? And so, you know, don't expect to get some sort of a skeleton key to what's going to fix everything. Get with these market feedbacks. The headline that you read, from the article about me in the Free Times, that was from a piece of feedback that I requested.
Yeah.
So
I didn't even know that. Well, and it was too pretty to be important.
So this was, I had applied, and this was not ceramic work. This was when I was still working primarily in polymer clay. This was a sculpture that I had submitted to Art Fields, which is a very big art festival here in South Carolina. And I had checked the little box that was, yes, please give me feedback, because I, you know, want to learn, want to grow. And the feedback that came back, there were a couple things that were like, oh, I just like wasn't sure about this thing, like what you were saying with this part or with this part. And then the last line was, ultimately, it was pretty. And that was why it wasn't accepted. And I was
I really hate
this is the least helpful thing.
Well, and I hate to hear that because, and I love though that you bring this up because like you're saying, it's not anything you can't do anything with that. Like there's nothing, you know, and so there's this very distinct line. And I think Chelsea, in your notes, you had written this where it's like, what type of feedback do you actually want to take action on? Because that's not something that you can. So what are you going to do now? Make everything ugly and then it's going to get in next year?
This is where your mindset comes in. Because what that actually was helpful feedback to me, not for changing my art, but for understanding just how subjective the process is for getting into these things, particularly where art is concerned. You know, this particular man, it was a man, did not like my piece, and a different person on a different day, when a different mood, might have. And so that is something that definitely reminds me. I remind myself of that. You know, I have applied to shows that I've gotten. I applied to. I got. There's a huge craft show in Baltimore run by the American Craft Council, and 2 years ago I got waitlisted for it and actually got pulled up off the waitlist for it. But it was too close to the deadline. I didn't have enough work to be able to do it. And then the next year, I didn't even get on the wait list. Total rejected. Yeah. And it's because it's different people doing it. Yeah. So you have to remember that this is subjective, that this is not necessarily about you. It might just be the particular person who looked at your application that particular day.
Yes, and I love that you said that. I have here in my notes, sometimes it's not you, it's them. Or sometimes it's not you, but the market. And I'm not saying it to say like, oh, absolve yourself from criticism, because sometimes they give you actual helpful advice. But other times it could just be that you're applying for a very, very, very popular market and there were just people who are better than you. I mean, it's true. Sometimes you're just not the best small business that's there. And I'm not trying to say that your small business isn't good, y'all. That's not what I'm saying.
I'm saying better suited to the taste of the organizer.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes it's just, like you said, it's preference. It's whoever's looking at your application. There are so many different variables going on.
I think the other one that we don't mention enough of too is, for example, when you're talking about, you know, how you had been waitlisted for that event or that art fair in North Carolina, you don't know what type of pre-established relationships they have with other vendors already. And so you're already like up against an even more competitive market because they have some booths that are already slated without them saying it for people they know or people they've, allowed in year after year. And
For
so
sure.
that's the other part. You just don't know any of that on the back end. So like you're saying, it's like, take it with a grain of salt, but the approach, I like the approach you have, because like you said, even when they're not giving you the best feedback, you're still pulling something from it.
It all comes down to how you receive it. Like nothing is in your control except your reaction to the information. I can't control whether I get into the market. All I can control is what I do with that information.
I also want to remind everyone that picking the right market to apply for is going to help you, one, actually get invited to come to the market. But I bring this up because if you're a brand new small business, if you're just getting into markets, you might be strapped for cash, right? A lot of these markets have a vendor fee. I don't want y'all applying to markets and spending money on applying to markets that are not going to accept you.
Right.
Like, take the time and be very specific about the type of markets that you're looking at. Because if you apply to, let's say, a very, very popular market, but it doesn't really suit your vibe, but it's very big, so it'll be a good chance for me, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to, so let me frame it from this perspective.
Yes, Vivian's like, Chelsea's wrong.
No,
Let me fix
well, this is what I'm thinking.
And I have a third perspective after Vivian.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
So I'm a small business owner that's just getting started with all the markets, and I spend time filling out these applications, which, Caroline, I'm sure you could tell us these applications are not like 5-minute applications, right? Yeah. So you're spending this time and energy to finish these applications. Do you really want to waste that or put that into markets or events that aren't aligned with your target audience, the type of people that are going to love your product and service? And I think just like at the core of marketing, we always tell you guys, great followers on Instagram are excellent, except what is your conversion rate? How many of those people are actually your target audience, and how many of them are actually buying and spending money with you? Yeah. That's your goal. Markets and craft fairs are not any different. You're looking for people who are going to be your community, who are going to love your product and service. Don't waste your time on, just because something's big doesn't necessarily mean it's right for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that is excellent advice. And I think that's harder when you're first starting out, because you may not know who your audience is. I feel like when you're starting out, it's a lot of just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. I didn't know who was going to buy my stuff. And I've been surprised. So something I did it last year. I'm doing it again this year. And it's a modified version of it. Have you guys ever heard of 100 Rejections?
No.
Is it basically where you're trying 100 things just to see?
Well, so it's something that writers do. You try to get rejected from 100 things. The way that I've done it, it's basically asks. So it could be you applied to something and got rejected. You contacted a store and we're like, hey, do you want to sell my stuff? And they were like, no, and that counts. And so this has been absolutely fantastic. I love doing this. I got nowhere near 100. I didn't even do 100 asks. That's fine. I would be broke if I had applied to 100 things. Application fees are out of control, especially for art fairs. Art fair application fees are usually $35 or $45 each. So,
wow.
Yeah. So you don't want to be trying to apply to 100 of those. But what it did do was pushed me. It pushed me to apply to things I didn't think I could get into. And a lot of the time, I did not get into them. But I already knew I wasn't probably going to get into them. And then I got into some things that I didn't think I was going to get into. I'm going this fall to St. James Court art show in Louisville, Kentucky, which is one of the best art fairs in the country. And I had no thoughts that I was going to get into that. And I'm so excited. Basically, the goal that I set for myself was apply to 10 things each month. Was what I set for myself.
So is there also another aspect to this where it's I don't want to use the word desensitize because that has
Yeah,
a
you
negative
should use that.
connotation to it.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So it desensitizes you to like not the fear, but the actual feeling of like, because I will say this, and I'm just going to share with you guys, worst feedback I've ever gotten, but it sticks with me to this day. I'm not going to name my boss's name, but I had a boss that told me, he said, "You are too sensitive." Because when he would give me feedback, I'd be like, I internalize it. And my thing is like, I don't really know how to separate the two because I do feel like it's a form of like artistic expression. And so I'm like, unless you're giving me some written feedback that's like cohesive or is detailed, you telling me you don't like something without anything else after it doesn't really guide me too well because I can't change anything. So I do wonder if maybe I could learn something from doing this because then I wouldn't feel as invested when it does come back negative.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so and one thing too is that like, so I would write down like, okay, these are the 10 things I'm going to apply to. And I would like put a little mark after I applied to them. And then when I would get the rejection, I would write nope in capital letters with an exclamation point next to them. And like, nope, got rejected. All right.
Yeah.
And it helped so much. And you're right, absolutely. Because so if we only choose a couple of things that we're going to apply to, we get so invested in those couple of things working out. If we are like, I'm just going to apply to these other things, again, a million application fees notwithstanding.
Yeah.
It is a numbers game. You apply to enough things, you're going to get into something. And it does desensitize you in a way because what happens is you get rejected and you realize that the world doesn't stop spinning. Yeah. And you realize that like your work doesn't start.
Nobody cares.
Yeah. And
nobody cares. Nobody knows.
Yeah. But if you try to control, you try to shut yourself off from the possibility of that pain. You try to protect yourself from that. You're shutting off the possibilities that you're going to get into an awesome market. And you're just going to make it worse when it does eventually happen because you're never going to shut yourself off from. You can never protect yourself from that. It's going to happen. Yeah. But the more you try and protect yourself, the worse it's going to feel when it does. So just like do it. Rip off the Band-Aid.
Let's go back to, I love that in that article, you were talking about how magic, right? And just how you see it in like all of nature and everything. So I wonder too, if you guys are listening to this, if you are not putting yourself out there and doing what Caroline is talking about and opening yourself up to rejection, you are also closing yourself off to magic, to allowing the art fair or the art show in Kentucky to come to fruition, right? Just because like you're not even thinking about that kind of stuff and you're not willing to say like, hey, let me just throw my name in the hat and let's see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. This is a quality that I got from my mother, that my mother taught us. Like I never saw my mother ever break down because something went wrong. She would always go, okay, well, what are we going to try next?
Yeah.
That was it. That was always, it was always, okay, what's plan B? How are we going to rig this? My mother is a champion rigger of things. And like, that is the greatest gift that she gave me, was the ability to just go, okay, plot twist. What are we doing with this now? And this 100 rejections and this has helped me really hone that. I don't think that I would be able to stay in this as a business if I didn't have this mindset of being secure in the knowledge that the work I'm making is good and that I know who I am as an artist. I know what my work is, and I will take feedback, but I'm not going to melt down because somebody doesn't like what I'm doing.
Have there been any other advantages, or like, have you taken any or abstracted anything else from these rejections and applied it to your business? Like, how else has it changed? I know you said, you feel like you wouldn't be able to do what you do without being able to learn how to take it. right? When you're rejected, but like, has it had any other effect on your small business?
I started taking better photos of my work for sure.
Really?
Yes, that is something that definitely I learned early on, especially with starting to apply to art markets. Definitely stepped up my photo game big time. And that's something that if you're going to be applying to markets, you need to have good photos, and you need to also, I've started now, and I need to do more of trying to do 2 sets of photos for art fairs, which is one vibe, and photos for like markets like Feminist Magic, which is this amazing market in Charleston, one of the absolute best markets. Love it so much. And that has a different vibe. So that's something that you can think about too, is, if you apply to a market and you get rejected, go to that market's Instagram page or whatever, look at their like feed of the vendors, look at those photos. Like, what kind of vibe do those photos have? Like, are they just the product with a clean background? Are they like more like integrate, like see what the vibe is, see if your photos are along those same lines, or, is there something you need to adjust? Like, take the rejection and see where you might adjust things without compromising your vision and who you are and your product.
Absolutely. There are times where you're rejected for things like photos. Taking a second, taking a step back from your small business and saying, well, where can I improve, without breaking down and saying they hate my small business, is going to help you, because at the end of the day, there are just some ways where you can present yourself better.
Yeah, it goes back to always, and I hope as a big sister, I've instilled this with you, where I feel like I'm a constant work in progress. Like, and I hope that, I'm in my 40s now. I hope that never changes. Like, I think I've told you before, like the minute I think I've stopped growing, like, please just make sure I'm in my grave, because it's just, life gets so boring. And I think as a human, if you're not consistently just looking for small things that you can do to improve yourself, improve the work that you're doing, or your contribution to the world, like what are we doing? We're not being introspective enough.
Okay.
Chelsea's like, sure, whatever.
Well, I'm just thinking every year for the new year, I always say I don't have any resolutions because I'm already perfect the way I am. So, I don't know.
I mean, that's a different approach for sure.
My resolution is always to try and hit fewer curbs. It never works out.
That's a pretty good one too. That should probably be one of them. I once worked with an ad agency where I had to go through and revise all of their work, because it would be laden with misspellings and wrong information. We were spending thousands of dollars for me to do double the work.
Sometimes you don't need an ad agency. You just need resources to be able to figure it out on your own.
Yeah, that's why we created the S.O.B community, for the small business owners who want to keep their marketing in-house but still need some support.
You get templates, courses, downloads, expert advice, weekly live calls, and a supportive group of other small business owners for just $50 a month. So head over to skool.com/SOB. That's SKOOL.com/SOB, all lowercase. Join today and feel confident in your marketing.
I feel like objective rejection is, I applied to this market, they said no. You were objectively rejected from that market. But I feel like we do a lot of things where I emailed this store and was like, hey, I would love to talk to you about carrying my products. And they never email me back. I'm rejected. That's not a rejection. Like, they didn't email you back. You have no response. Okay. So many things could have happened there. You could have gone to spam. They could have seen your email and been like, I'll get back to that. And they got busy. I lose emails all the time. So I want people to start thinking about like what's in your head, like what stories are we creating that make us feel bad, and just cut that shit out. That is unnecessary.
Yeah.
Like,
there's a gentleman I follow. He does this thing where he calls them soundtracks, and I love the way he says that, because it's kind of like when you got a catchy tune in your song that you can't get rid of. That's what he says. Exactly what you're saying. Whatever you keep repeating to yourself in your head, that thought that you have, or that perception you have about yourself, that maybe somebody said flippantly to you, and now you're like just sitting there mulling on it over and over. It's a soundtrack.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had like multiple conversations in the last couple of weeks with friends, small business owners, about like Instagram, about people being like, oh my God, I posted this thing and nobody liked it and stuff. And it's just like, Instagram's trash. Like,
yes. Yes. Thank you. You said it. We did it.
it's trash. It's trash. The algorithm's trash. People will be like, I posted this thing. I'm like, well, I didn't see it because I don't know what's going on, because posts come, they go, blah, blah, blah. The number of likes on your post, that is not data for you. Like, that is just a wild hair of who saw what, whatever. Like, that is not.
Say it louder for the people in the back. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so that's not an objective rejection of your post. That is just random whatever. And we've got to stop giving weight to these things and giving time and mental energy to these things that don't mean anything and that cannot help us.
For markets and situations like that where you don't receive any response, yes, that's a perceived rejection. Can we also talk about how sometimes consumers or customers will look at your products and then walk away? I know that sucks. You wanted that sale. Sometimes it's just that they're going to come back and look at your stuff, you know? So making sure that you don't sour that relationship. Make sure they have a card. Make sure you're still being nice and polite to them. You know, if you feel like, oh, they're not going to purchase anything, I'm not going to make a sale, you should not switch up because of that. And I've had this happen to me at markets before. I've had people decide that I probably wasn't going to purchase anything, so they just stop trying to interact with me. And that's going to turn me off even more. Now I was considering your product. Now I'm not considering it at all, because y'all, it's a people's game. This goes back to, you need to be nice to people. You need to put the effort in.
Yeah, for sure. And like, you don't know who's there, but like who doesn't have money that day and isn't going to buy anything from you. But maybe will down the line, or maybe won't. I don't know. It's I have a weird relationship with selling for someone who sells things for a living. Like I've never like sold anything to anyone. Like I've never, like, I once had a guy at a higher end art fair come in and say, well, sell this piece to me. Tell me why I should buy this piece. And I was just like, no, like, what? No, like,
I don't care what you do with your money.
I don't. I would never ever try to sell something to somebody, because that means they don't want it. Especially for art. Having those interactions with people and having those just be human interactions and having that warmth and whatnot, you really don't know what's going to happen down the line. Like, I have some amazing collectors of my work who have bought so many things from me who didn't buy anything from me the first time they saw me. And you can't assume that you know everything from one interaction, and don't assume rejection. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and I always think of it when I go back to like just marketing basics, they're telling us now it takes 7 to 8 interactions with a business before someone spends money with them. I always think of it this way. I love going to markets and stuff. Sometimes I'm not looking for anything in particular, but then when I have a friend's birthday or I have a Christmas that comes up or something along those lines, that's when I go back and I think about the small businesses that are doing something that I'm like, oh, I know someone who would like that as a gift, right? along the same frame as far as like artwork, there's a lady here at Nexton that she does a lot of the markets, but she does like marsh designs and stuff. And so if I know I have a friend who likes that particular style, then I'm like, that's a great gift for them. Their birthday comes around once a year, so I can't be buying it, you know, in March for a birthday in September, but then I catalog it. And so to your point, you might be having people that are looking and with the thought in mind, like, hey, I know now that there's a business that does this, that when I'm ready to make a purchase, I could go to them and do that online. So let me ask you really quick. I think it's important to exercise. And what type of, like, are there any exercises, quote unquote, that you can do? One of the really good ones, what are you laughing at?
I thought you were going to ask her, like, does she do yoga or stuff? I'm like,
Oh,
where's
God.
this
I was about to be like,
going?
no, God. No, I don't
No.
do that.
So I feel like you're kind of like a, what's his name? Daniel from Karate Kid. Okay, you're a kung fu master and you've mastered rejection, right? You've mastered how to reframe
I'm really
rejection.
good at getting rejected.
That's right. You're excellent. You're the best at getting rejected. So, no,
I want
a small business owner.
Bash best at rejection.
That's right.
Yeah.
You have a black belt in rejection. What is your like wax on, wax off method of what are small things? You said, I think one of the ones you covered that was really good was that challenge of 100 rejections, right? Like how many ways can you kind of reframe your mindset with it? But is there anything else that small business owners can do that would help with taking that sting out or make it less daunting when they are rejected?
Yeah, I mean, I think getting rejected more is number one. I do think doing the worst case scenario is helpful, just because like, what is the worst case scenario of getting rejected from a market that you could possibly come up with? Like, I can't think of one other than like they'll send me the email and I'll be so upset that I'll like trip and hit my head, or like I mean like what could it possibly be, you know, like like it's just like I'll feel bad for a little while. And if you're at this point in your life and you've never felt bad for a little while, like
write us in and tell us
you're gonna get through it. You're gonna get through it. Okay. And also you know, I think that you have to be really clear on who you are and why you're doing this. And if you, going back to kind of the imposter syndrome thing, and maybe one reason why I don't feel so too bad when I get rejected is because I don't feel that as an attack on my art, because I think my art is good. You know? And if you don't think that your work is good, why are you selling it? Like, why would you sell a bad product? See, that's a bigger question that you need to think about. If you don't think your work is good, you need to think about why you're trying to pass it off to somebody else.
Yeah.
I wonder too, though, if maybe we're thinking the wrong thing. If maybe it's not that we think our art is bad or our product is bad. I wonder if some of us, when we create something, we just don't know. Like, instead, the question we should be asking is, who is this made for? Who's going to buy this, right? Who is this? Who is my community? And I'll say this. We have a mutual friend in Jessie, Southern Curiosities. I love the fact, I'm like, she does that whimsical taxidermy stuff. I can't imagine the amount of confidence when she had the thought, let me put this rat on a stripper pole, let me put this rat on a motorcycle and see if people will buy this. Yes, rat in a teacup. All of that, I think maybe it's not that we don't think our product is good, but maybe it's just we haven't found the right target audience. Yeah. And we haven't asked ourselves that.
And that's where the just putting yourself out there until you find them comes in. And there's no shortcut. That's the thing, is that we are so, as a society in general, we are so focused on a shortcut, a magic pill, something that will just take away the pain, make it fast. Sorry, there isn't one. I spent, years going to terrible markets. I spent a lot of money on vendor fees that I will never see again. I, trudged through mud, had lost things to wind. I had very, very boring conversations with people that wanted to talk to me about things that had nothing to do. You got to just go through the shit. And there's no shortcut. If you want to do this, there is no shortcut. I should not be a motivational speaker, is what we've learned.
No, but you're correct.
Well, here's the thing is, I'll tell you, that's why sometimes I get people, they're like, I started posting on YouTube 7 years ago, and sometimes am I like, I should probably have 500,000 subscribers at this point. Yeah, sometimes I tell myself, I know it's a soundtrack, and I'm like, okay, well, but the thing is, you have over 7,000, and that's, that's more than you had at the beginning, and you've learned how to edit, you've learned how to do all this stuff. So I guess that's the part of it, is there is no shortcut for any of that. As much, if you guys are listening to any podcast, especially a marketing podcast that tells you, oh, just go viral, you guys need to quit listening to that crap. Don't. It takes work, and you want it to take work. You want to know why? Because that's going to separate the cream rises to the top. That separates you from other people. You've never heard of that?
I've never heard that, but keep going. You're on a roll.
No, but so it's like, it separates the people that are not serious about doing the thing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be at the same level of someone. I always tell her our biggest advantage is that we have people, we know people that started podcasts. Podcasting can be boring, okay? Especially when you think you're talking to crickets, okay? No one's listening, this and that. But I told her, I'm like, when we make the commitment to do something, we're going to do it. Even if it takes us 5 years or if it takes us 10, I don't care. We're doing the thing. So.
Yeah. And as a small business owner, unfortunately, if you want your small business to do well and to take off, you're going to have to just do the thing.
Yeah.
There's no tricks. There's no shortcuts. You just got to do it and continue to do it.
So, Caroline, before we wrap up this conversation, you tell us where people can connect with you and all that good stuff. I do have an important question to ask. How many Titty Bat t-shirts do you have?
I think I only have 2.
Okay, I have enough. 2.
Not enough.
I also have 2.
Oh.
Well,
you had 1. You got 2.
I have 2.
I have. I think I might snap with the snapping turtle, which is my current favorite in my current mood climate. And I have a boot scootin' rootin' tootin' armadillo and a cowboy hat, which is very cute.
That was the one that you were wearing, I think, in one of your either Instagram reels or your post, but I saw it and I was like, I have to ask her if she's got like a whole collection of them. If you guys don't know, Titty Bats is another fellow vendor, right, at one of the Columbia markets. 𝘕𝘢𝘬𝘳𝘠, yes. And so he just makes the coolest tie-dye looking T-shirts that have funny characters and stuff on there. So
we've got 𝘕𝘢𝘳𝘠 on Sunday. He might be there. If he's there on Sunday, I'm getting another one.
I love it.
I'm so excited for 𝘕𝘢𝘳𝘠. But I crave violence with the cat that has the knife.
That's a good one.
Cat with the knife, and it says I crave violence. And then I also have it's always time for crime with the raccoon on it.
That's right.
Ooh, that's a good one too.
I love it. Well, so we have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Tell us, where can people find you?
You can find me at Instagram, Revisionist Studio, my website, revisioniststudio.art. And if you really want to keep up with me, I would recommend signing up for my mailing list, my email list, which is actually my number one marketing tip for people is when you do markets, have a list for people to sign up for your email, because that Instagram could implode tomorrow and you'd lose all those followers, but you would still have your email list. And that's just a really great way to be able to connect a little bit deeper with the people that want to hear from you. I really love my newsletter people. So sign up for that.
That
And
was
hear some more of my thoughts.
that was music to our ears, let me tell you. As people who I feel like our last guest, Gretchen, had said, if you're listening to this podcast right now, I know you've heard about email marketing because I feel like we talk about it every single episode.
Well, and to your point, though, that is the only way where really you have a full control of the communication that goes out to people that want to know and crave more information about your business. So I'm sure, what type of information do you share on like the email list?
So because I don't sell on my website that often, I do occasionally do like drops for things. So I kind of didn't send it for a couple. I just sent one this morning. So I'll share like works in progress. I'll share just kind of like what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling. My background is in English. I'm a writer. I like to write. So I get a little bit more deeper and more vulnerable about kind of what I'm thinking when I'm going through this work than I will on Instagram. And I also, when I do sell things on my website, I give the people who are on my newsletter 24 hours of pre-access to that sale. Mm-hmm. And they usually snap everything up before it even goes live. So
I love it.
So that those
is so awesome.
Those are my people. Those are the people that have said to me, I really want to be a part of this. Like I get you, I get this, and I want to be a part of this. So I really treasure those connections that I've made with those people.
Well, and we certainly treasure you. We love that you're no nonsense. You will tell it like it is, and you'll share your thoughts. I think there's too much pretentiousness that goes on in small businesses because we feel like we have to put on a certain type of, vibe or something.
I feel like just in general, people when they're talking feel like they have to sound super smart.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid to be a dumbass.
Well, no, what I'm saying is like you're using word. This is the problem that I have with a lot of like marketing gurus. You're using a lot of buzzwords to make yourself sound smart. You're not actually saying anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, listen, if you want to come on our podcast so that we can tell you that you're good at failure and you're using that English degree very well, no.
I really enjoyed having you guys call me a dumb failure. That was wonderful.
You guys listen to this entire podcast. We did not. Okay, we did not call her a dumb failure. We loved having you on though. And listen,
I love talking to you guys.
Open invite. Anytime you want to come on, if there's some small business drama, some small business stuff that people are doing out there that we don't agree with, come on.
All right, I'll keep my ears open.
Y'all, I forgot to say it during the recording, but go be the best SOBs you can be.